Hi, fellow Django developers. Hezekiah here from alwaysdjango.com, where we discuss interesting Django topics that helps you improve as a Django developer. If that sounds interesting, like, subscribe, share this video, tell no one that you think will find this video interesting also. So let's get right into it. So today we are going to discuss how to set up Django with a virtual environment. And like always, we have an article here on alwaysdjango.com. I'll leave a link to the I'll leave a link to this article on the description so that maybe you can check it out, read up and things like that. So what are virtual environments in Django? Virtual environments are isolated Python interpreters, scripts, and libraries separated from our virtual environment and or any other Python environment installed on the system. When we create Django projects, the basic approach might be to use Python and Python packages installed on the machine for such a project. But with virtual environment, we are sure to use separate Python and Python versions, packages and packages version for different applications. Right? So what are the importance of using virtual environment? You can use any package. Number one, you can use any package you want for your Django application without worrying about conflict and collision in the future, right? So let's say, for instance, you have a Django project that you worked on, let me say a year or like before. So, and that project is using maybe Django 2.1, right? Now you want to get another, you want to work on another Django project, and let's say you update the version of Django installed on your system, right? So the older application that is using Django 2.1, when the new one gets upgraded, when the Python installed on your system get upgraded, the application that was working on Django 2.1 might most likely stop working or break at some point, and maybe you now need to go and tweak something. So with Django, with different virtual environments, you can, on this application, you use this virtual environment and use different Python interpreters, Python scripts, Python libraries, Python packages. On this other project, you use different environments, different Pythons. So on every application, right, you have a separate Python interpreter, scripts, packages for every separate application that you work on. So treating every application as an individual self, right? So preventing conflicts and collision in the future, right? Virtual environments, number two, virtual environments come with Python by default and no other setup is needed. Obviously, virtual environment will come with a separate Python environment. It comes with Python on itself, so there is really nothing for you to work on. It just spins up and gets you going immediately. So number three, virtual environment also saves your system Python libraries from a lot of unnecessary and not so much in use packages, right? Let's say maybe you worked on a project and you use this Python package, right, for this project. And most probably there are projects that you work on that request specific functionalities, right, which maybe in a long run you will not get to use this package again, you will not get to use this function again. So installing these libraries on your Python, that's the Python library for your system, will be like clouding up the library, your Python library for your system, with packages that are not in use or not so much in use packages. Packages are not really necessary, right? So that you don't get to use. Maybe not something like Django, REST framework, maybe Pygame. These are ones you probably use always, but maybe something like Six and things like that that you don't really get to use always, just rarely. It will not make lots of sense to install these packages on your Python library on your system. It will bring about overclouding of the package and so on. So number four, it is generally an acceptable approach to setting up Django projects. If you are looking at working for a company or a team, you most probably need to use virtual environment. So setting up Django with a virtual environment, I've not really seen a team, a company that uses Django or uses Python generally that don't make use of virtual environments, right? That's the normal approach, because it saves you a lot. It saves you from a lot of crashes and problems in future, and makes your application modular and treats every application separately on its own, right? So now let's get into the real stuff, right? Steps on how to set up Django with a virtual environment. Although we already have an article on always Django on how to create a Django project today, which is here on this article. I will also leave a link to this article on the description. Here we discussed how to create a project in Django. This is creating a project in Django. Normally, if you have Django, if you have Python installed on your system, just installing Django on your system, creating a project, creating an app, register the application, just normal steps in creating Django without creating an application in Django without a virtual environment, right? So we say first step here, we say install the Python virtual environment package on your system. Second step, we say create a folder to house your project. Third step, we say create a virtual environment. Fourth step, we say activate the virtual environment. Fifth one, we say create a Django project. Sixth one, we say install Django. Seven, to say start your project, right? So number one, first step, we say install the Python virtual environment on your system. To make use of virtual environment package commands on your system, you need to install the virtual environment package. Simply open your command line and enter the below pip installation command. So open your command line, just your command line. Let me spin my up. Obviously I'm using Windows, right? So you can use, just install, you say pip install virtualenv, pip install. I'll also leave maybe this installation command here. You see here, you say requests already satisfied. That's, I've already installed this package on my system. So but if you do yours, it will run the pip installation process, the downloading and everything, and install on your system, right? That's first step done. Second step, say create a folder to house your project, right? So you go to your folder, have your anywhere you want to have this project housed. You say, for me, I'm putting it in my C drive, a YouTube folder, always Django folder. So here is where I want to have my project, my Django project, right? So I create a new folder. Let me call it using VENV, right? So this folder will house my Django project. This second step done. On third step, we'll say create a virtual environment. After creating the project folder, open the terminal to the directory and create your virtual environment. This is the command to create a virtual environment. You copy it, go to your commands. Let's close this. In the above command, okay, we'll get to that. So we'll go to the folder where you want to house this application. Obviously, this is where you want to have your virtual environment. So in the folder where you want to have your project, you go to that folder, open your command line to that folder, cmd, open your command line to that folder. If you are using Windows and you want to open a command line in a specific folder, you just go to that folder, go to this directory path here, type cmd, and it opens the command line to this folder. If you check here, this command line is open to this folder. This is probably better than maybe opening the command line, and now doing cd, maybe always django.com, now cd to, you say cd to this, that. So you just go to the folder, just cmd. There you have it, right? So we paste our command here. Now let's note this environ file. This is python-m VENV. VENV, this is the virtual environment package. Here we say python-m, this running the Python using this package here. Create a virtual environment for me. What's the name of the virtual environment? This is the name of the virtual environment. So the name of the virtual environment can really be anything you want, right? This can be, maybe you want to name it environ, maybe you want to name it VNV also, maybe you want to name it PY, anything. But generally, I've seen most developers name it ENV. Most sometimes they also name it, yeah. So let's just go with the general convention. Let's name it ENV. So this env here will be the name of your virtual environment, and you have to note that this env is the name of the virtual environment. On here we said environ, which is also good. You can really name it anything you want. So we said in the above command, environ is the name of the virtual environment. Note how on the folder you created in step 3, an environ folder will be created also. So in this folder you created to house your project, there will be an environ folder there. That's if you use this command. But for us, we used env, right? We used env, so you will have an env folder. Let's go. Right, so right here in our project we have an env folder. If you used another name for your virtual environment, maybe use environ, maybe use VNV, anything you use will be the name of this folder, right? So this is our virtual environment created. This is our virtual environment. So virtual environment folder structure. If you go to this virtual environment, open it up, we have a folder structure here. We have the environ folder, that's the environment. Inside there we have the include, we have the libs folder, we have the scripts folder, we have the py-venv folder. Then in this scripts folder, right, in this lib folder, this is where you have all your packages installed on this virtual environment. In this folder, in the lib folder, in your environment folder, inside the lib, let's call it lib because lib, right? Inside this lib folder you have the site packages, and this site packages houses all the packages you're installing on this virtual environment, right? The script folder houses every script you should run. That's the pip script, the python script, python w script, the activation script, the deactivation script. So any command you want to run on this, so if you run pip install on this virtual environment, it will use this script. If you run the deactivate, it will use this deactivate script here, this window batch file, this window bat file, that's .bat file. If you run python, it will use this python. So your scripts are in this folder, in your environment folder, in the scripts folder. This is where you have your script. So this is, by the way, don't really need to know this, you just have to install your this. I'm just explaining, right? It's where we explain this. Say the include folder contains extra contents that do not fit in any folder. The libs folder, in this folder we have the site packages, which houses all the packages this project is using, which we just talked about. The scripts, these are python activation, deactivation, and process scripts. Note that the python interpreter exists in this folder. So in this folder, in the scripts folder, this is where we have our python, right? This is the python here. So activate the virtual environment. This is the what step? The fourth step. We activate the virtual environment. At this point, your virtual environment is created and is ready to be used. Firstly, we have to activate it. Now note, without activating the virtual environment, any command you run will be executed on the system python environment and interpreter. So if you should create this virtual environment, which we have here, we have created the virtual environment here. So any command you run on this, without, right now we have not activated the virtual environment, we just created it, right? Any if you haven't activated the virtual environment, any python command, any pip command you run will run on the python installed on this system and not your virtual environment. So right now, if you run any pip install any command right now, it will run on the python installed on your system, the python version for your system, and not our virtual environment. Why? Because we have not activated it, we just created the virtual environment. So you have to know that. I have to always make sure that your python is activated, right? So generally, to activate a Django virtual environment, you simply execute the bat deactivate.bat, which we talked about here. This is the activate.bat file. So generally you just need to run this command here. You just need to run it from your cmd, right? From your command line, from your bash command, any so from your command line generally. And in the command line, open the project folder where you created the virtual environment. So we open this folder where we created the virtual environment here, right? So this is our package. This is our Django project folder here. So we open this folder, we open our command line to this folder, cmd, right? So we open our command line to this folder, then we copy this command, come here, paste it, right? So you say environ script bat. If you check here, this environ is the name of the project of the virtual environment we created for this. On this article, the name of our virtual environment is environ. But if you can remember, the name of our virtual environment for the project what we are working on now is env, right? So this will change. This will change to environ. So what we are simply saying here is, in this folder, go to this folder, this environment folder. In this environment folder, go to this scripts folder. In this folder, go to the run the activate file. So this is what we are saying. In this folder, the use env folder, go to the environment folder, go to the script folder and run the activate file. So that's what we are trying to say, that generally to activate a virtual environment in your Python in your project, you generally need to run this activate file, which is what we are doing here. We went to the environment folder. In the use env folder, which is our Django folder, we run the environment file. In the environment, we enter the environment folder. In the environment folder, we enter the script folder. In the script folder, we run the activate script file, right? So we press enter here. If we press enter now, so we need to have a way to confirm that, okay, we have activated our Django environment. How do we know, right? If you check here right now, you have this bracket, open bracket, environment, close bracket, environment. So this environment is the name of our virtual environment, and this means if you check here, we don't have such a thing here. But here now we have it. So this is signifying, this is telling us that yes, we have activated our virtual environment. This is telling us that any command we run now on this command, any Python command we run on this command line will be in this virtual environment, which is the env virtual environment. So this is obviously how you know that your virtual environment is activated. This is how you know that your virtual environment. If we should deactivate, we'll get to that, but let's deactivate. As we deactivated now, you can see right here that there is no env over here. Why? Because we have deactivated the virtual environment. We get to that, but this is generally how you deactivate your virtual environment. Obviously, because you are in this folder, and in this script folder, you can directly run this deactivate file. This is the deactivate. This is deactivate here. This is the deactivate. So this is what we run to deactivate this folder. So if you check, there is no bracket env folder, bracket env signification here over here. So your virtual environment is active here, but it's not active here because we are deactivated it here. So let's spin it up again. Script. So here now we have it again because our virtual environment has been activated here, but it was not active here. So this is how you know that your virtual environment is active. So the next step, we have to say activate the virtual environment. You have done that. Number 5, we say create a Django project. Right? But first we have to install Django on this project. So because we have virtual environment activated, we can say pip install Django, right? So this command here, this pip installation command is running on our virtual environment, not on the Python installed on this system. Because we have it active here, this installation command is running on our virtual environment, right? So this Python here is installing on our virtual environment and not the Python installed on our system. Why? Because we have our virtual environment activated, right? So right now pip is doing this thing, is installing, is collecting data, is downloaded, collect data, collect this, installing the packages is downloaded and installed. This is Django here. This is maybe helper packages that help Django to run. So right now we are installing Django. I'm waiting for it to complete. I'm waiting for it to complete. I'm waiting for it to complete. Maybe my system is a little bit, I don't, or maybe my internet connection. Maybe it's a little bit slow, but boys, it's almost done. It's almost. Sorry for the waste of time, guys. Thank you. So it has been completed, right? It has been completed. Django has been installed on this system. So if we see pip list, we see pip list here, you can see Django installed on this package, Django installed on this virtual environment. So we have Django installed here. So we'll create another Django, we'll create a new Django project. You say Django. I don't know if you know how to. So this is how to create a Django. We say django-admin start project. Then you give the name of the project. Maybe the name of the project, let's say using, yes, also say using env, then dot. Now this is the bone of contention here. This dot, you know, if you have used Django before, if you create a Django project, that Django project will create a folder, right? Naming it what you named your Django project, and create another folder for the Django. That's in a Django project. If you have not created a Django project before, it might be somewhat maybe confusing. But this dot here means create everything inside this folder. Like I already have a folder for normal Django packages without a dot. For normal Django installation process, creating project process, without this dot, the folder Django will create a folder. Then inside that folder, it will now install the project in that folder. So Django creates a folder for you, a separate folder for you when you want to install Django. So but here we don't want that folder. We just want this project to be created inside this folder, inside this use env folder. So we want our Django project here, right? We want our Django project right here. We don't want Django to, this is what Django would do normally without the dot. It will come here, it will create a using env folder. Inside this using env folder, it will create another, it will now create our Django project here. It will create another using env folder. It will have our manage.py folder here. It will have our URL, our settings.py. So Django creates another folder for you when you want to create a folder Django. So with the dot that we entered here, we tell Django, please have everything inside this folder. Don't create a separate folder for me. So we enter it here. So our project has been created, and you see now we have our manage.py. This is another thing to note. Our manage.py file should be in the same project directly as our environment, as our virtual environment here. So if you check here, we have a virtual environment here, we have our manage.py here. Yeah, so both of them should be in the same environment. Assuming we did not add this dot here, maybe we created our project just like this, it will not be in the same folder, because Django will create another using .env file. Then in that using env file, it will now have this manage.py file inside there, making this environment and manage.py not to be in the same folder. So what I'm just trying to say is, when you're creating your Django project with a virtual environment, taking this process I'm taking, just have your dot here. That's what I'm really saying. So you say create a project, which you have done. Create a project, we have done that. Install Django, we have done that. Start your project, right? So how do you start a Django project? How do you start a Django project? We should know that, right? If you know that, if like I want you to leave a comment. If you know how to start a Django project, leave a comment below telling me the command I have to run now, the manage.py, Django manage.py command I have to run now to start a Django project. I'll wait for you. I give you, let me say, 10 seconds, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So this is the command you have to run to start a Django project. In your project folder, say python manage.py run server. With this command, you can start your Django project. So if you enter this command, if you say this is the command, and the comment section, if you say this is the command, then you are right. This is the command to start a Django project. And if we check, and if we go to our browser, I go to my browser, I type 1. So voila, good luck, well done, big ups. You have your Django project, and guess what? Your Django project is running with your env folder, your virtual environment. This Django project is on a virtual environment, right? So any command you run here, any Python command you run here, installation command you run here will be on this virtual environment. And of course, we have already highlighted the importance of having a virtual environment, catching your project to the virtual environment. So this is necessarily it, right? This is how to start a virtual environment, start your Django project in a virtual environment, use a virtual environment for your Django project. This is how to use a virtual environment in your Django project. So, but now we'll just how to deactivate Django virtual environment. So if you are through with working on your project, or maybe you want to do something else on your Django, on your normal Python installed on your system, how can you deactivate the Django virtual environment? Say for any reason you want to deactivate your virtual environment, maybe to continue with the system installation installed Python, and the command line in the terminal, open to your created folder, enter the below Python installation Python command, the below command, right? So we come here, let's stop our server. We stopped our server, so we say deactivate, just like we highlighted before, deactivate. So right now our virtual environment has been deactivated. This is how you know here it was active, because you have this open bracket, name of the virtual environment, close bracket. But right now here you can see we don't have it here. So you have successfully deactivated your virtual environment for your Django project. So this is it, guys. Thank you for staying in tune. Thank you. Maybe this tutorial maybe is up to, maybe let me say 15 minutes, I guess. So this is how you successfully set up a Django project with a virtual environment, right? So thank you guys for staying in tune. Please like, subscribe, share to get more views, to get people to get to see these videos and learn from alwaysdjango.com to help ourselves improve as Django developers, which is our target, right? So like, subscribe, share, comment. If you have a question, leave it on the comment below. I will get back to you and I'll answer you. So thank you guys. Have a good day. Have a nice day. Thank you for staying tuned. Peace.